Okay, today I'm here to address it. We're going to dive into why you should partner with an agency. And this is the question that you probably want the answer to. And this is something that I don't even think a lot of agency owners actually consider. When they're offering their services, let's actually think about who will benefit from this. When's the timing going to be right? Why should you work with an in-house team? Why should you work with an agency? Is it the right time to train an intern? We're going to dive into all of this. And as usual, I like to keep it objective. So we're going to look at the case studies. We're going to look at the reports. We're going to look at success stories. We're going to look at failures. So you can have a balanced interpretation so you can navigate this system. If you don't know who I am, Keenan Lawrence, founder at Sireno Digital, and we are the digital partners to help people grow sustainably and facilitate that growth online. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. Today's business environment is dominated by digital evolution and emerging technologies. You'll be familiar, you've heard these buzzwords, AI, AR. Staying ahead of this curve is going to be crucial. So at Sireno, we're committed to elevating brands, ensuring that they not only thrive, but lead in the online realm. And this is important. You don't just want to be participating. How can you actually be a leader within your space? So agencies with a finger on the pulse, they're able to harness these innovations and enable brands to navigate this ever-evolving terrain seamlessly. Now, you can probably guess my stance on this. And the reason I'm actually making this video is after a lot of discussions that I have with clients, potential prospects. What I'm here to do is ultimately keep it objective. I do want to offer a balanced side, but you can tell where my passions lie. You know, Sireno Digital is in the name. We're shifting towards digital. A lot of agencies provide phenomenal services for clients, but we're going to question when the right time is. How should you know if it's the right time, and how can you harness it, whether it's an in-house team or an external team, effectively? Understanding the landscape and navigating the ecosystem. The digital landscape is complex, and as businesses reshape, they alter consumer behaviors. And when we're talking about shifting dynamics and things of this nature, the simplest way to think of it is think of a company like Amazon. Think about your expectations now based on these businesses reshaping and the landscape of, the pandemic, for example, where consumer behavior shifts to online. Your expectations are that your package, you order it today and it arrives at your door tomorrow. You've got people at the top that understand the sophisticated technology and that implement it into their businesses, and this is shifting consumer sentiment around how quickly something should come to them. Amazon are shipping something within 12 hours and you're shipping something and it takes 2 weeks to get to the customer. That's essentially going to affect that customer's experience. So it's important to understand how to navigate this as things do get more dynamic. What people don't understand about Amazon is the reason they've been able to do this, they don't use third-party logistics. They built their own infrastructure and their own ecosystem. And this can essentially be daunting for people that maybe don't have that infrastructure in place in order to compete. And this is where knowledge, and specialized knowledge in particular, comes into play. As I mentioned, expertise is going to be something that's paramount for your success. Whether it's, your in-house team, whether it be a marketing intern, whether it be an exterior agency, essentially the expertise is the cornerstone for strategic marketing. It provides a bird's eye view so you can look at things holistically and unveils unique opportunities and challenges. So in the face of growth, expertise ensure that marketing strategies remain flexible, relevant, and it allows you to adapt seamlessly to ever-shifting needs. How dynamic are you? How elastic are you in the marketplace? If you see a trend, how quickly can you change? It's about harnessing the power of knowledge to provide consistent evolution. These are often common things that we identify in the blind spots that we see from in-house marketing efforts. So firstly, we've got adherence to the status quo. Now, internal teams, they might prefer familiar territories, limiting innovation, experimentation. You may think that something works, but you may be working based off of limited information. Remember I mentioned the expertise, that comes down to knowledge and information. And are you making decisions based on it being the safest? You don't necessarily want to change because change comes with risk. However, the knowledge can actually mitigate the risk. You can say, running this campaign in-house, that's going to be super risky, man. We've got to spend budget, we've got to spend 20K on Facebook ads, and we've also got to apply, 10K to Google ads. If you've never done that before, of course it's going to be risky because you don't have the knowledge base to pull from to understand it. Whereas if you've done this 20 times, that suddenly mitigates the risk because you have seen the terrain and you understand the potential pitfalls. The next one is limited perspective. So being deeply entrenched in daily operations often leads to the inability to see the bigger picture. This is how agencies can have a fresh outlook with a broader vantage point. So again, you're stuck within that particular ecosystem. A lot of the time with founders and their teams, it can almost be an echo chamber. In order to understand the marketplace and how dynamic it can be and how to position yourself against your competitors, sometimes it's good to have an exterior position on this. Now, this could be through consulting, this could be through numerous things, or it could just be through staying educated. So it's not necessarily like you have to go with an agency, but these are just the things to consider, and these are the blind spots that we commonly come across. The next thing, scattered focus. Internal teams might miss golden opportunities while juggling various responsibilities. Do you have that person? Maybe you're a part of a smaller team, and I understand the struggles of this when you're trying to scale a business. Being a business owner myself, when you're building, you have to spread responsibilities, you have to be lean, you want things to be dynamic. However, there is a cost. A lot of the time you're going to pay the financial cost, or you're going to pay with time. So these are things that you can cut, but scattered focus is a huge one. And then the next one, miss trends. Now, what agencies can do is they can intersect with emerging trends due to handling diverse projects. It's like what I mentioned earlier. If you've got 20 case reference points to a particular problem and solving it, an in-house agency might not have seen this before. They might not understand how to apply this based on experience. So this is really important. These are the things that I've just identified, and they may be things that you're facing at the moment. I always like to bring in examples and actually case studies rather than it just being anecdotal. I could be mentioning this stuff based on experience. Let's actually look at the bigger picture and look at companies that you will know and have heard of where there are blind spots of in-house marketing efforts. So, JCPenney's in-house transformation. What was the attempt? With new leadership in 2011, JCPenney planned to revitalize its brand, commencing with a fair and square pricing strategy. Now, as you can see here, this is Ron Johnson, the CEO at the time, on the left. And what was the outcome? The abrupt change alienated its core customer base, causing sales to drop by nearly 25% within a year. The aftermath. By 2013, leadership changed again, and JCPenney reverted to its traditional pricing, spotlighting the perils of rapid brand shifts without a deep understanding of consumer sentiment. A lot of the stuff that I focus on this channel is based around consumer sentiment. The customer is really important. Another one, big company, I like to use the ones that are relevant, the Pepsi in-house ad. So the attempt was to resonate with current societal issues. So they were on track. They're trying to, dig into the consumer and some of the things that are going on in culture. So you might have seen this. This was with Kendall Jenner, and the in-house team crafted an ad featuring her to sort of hint at the protest movements that were going on at the time. So you can check out the images here. She had the Pepsi, and then she actually went on to offer one of the police officers Pepsi. So what was the outcome? The campaign was accused of belittling serious social struggles. And the aftermath, amid the controversy, Pepsi withdrew the ad, acknowledging their lapse in judgment. This incident served as a poignant reminder of the necessity to cultural sensitivity and understanding it in marketing endeavors. So this is two examples of in-house teams where, you've got an in-house team, but they still need to have a pulse on the culture and need to have a deep understanding on customer sentiment. What do they want? Sometimes they can be detached. Agencies that are dealing with a lot of brands, or even smaller boutique agencies or freelancers, they have the reference point. So this is where sometimes customer sentiment and cultural relevance can be skipped, even if you do have things in-house. I could go on. I wanted to include I didn't want to actually. I was going to initially. It popped to mind the Balenciaga controversies. However, if you're unaware of that, just do a quick Google and investigate what happened there. But it's kind of truly sickening, so I just thought I'd leave it out. I leave it with JCPenney and Pepsi. So what is the partnering power that you have, and what do agencies truly bring? Okay, you can focus on the core business while your partner navigates the complex world of marketing. So specialized expertise, we kind of touched on this already, adhering to the status quo, things of this nature. By spotting opportunities that are often overlooked by internal teams. Partnerships can offer a strategic advantage, curating a comprehensive and holistic strategy. And with scalability at their core, agencies ensure that your marketing strategies evolve with your growing needs. Elasticity, tangible benefits. Usually we're trying to optimize for an ROI on every dollar spent, especially if we have a commission structure in place where it incentivizes us to help you win, because the more you win, the more we win. So our incentives are aligned. Whereas sometimes the safest option can be the option that you go with when you have limited perspective on the bigger picture. You're optimizing for safety rather than ROI, innovation, and strategy. So let's look at some of the strategic case studies of agencies where it works. We looked at where in-house teams don't work. We're going to look at where agencies do work. We're also going to look at where agencies don't work, so I can give you the full spectrum and you can sort of pull away key points where you think, okay, maybe I'll let my in-house team know this, or maybe we do need to have a better pulse on certain things. So Old and Spice with Whedon and Kennedy, this campaign, the man your man could smell like, it didn't merely make waves culturally, it actually had significant financial implications, huge growth. So this is where, we see a big brand work with an agency, and what are the outcomes? Sales surging by 107%. Old Spice became the #1 selling body wash for men in the United States, and the campaign obviously received hundreds of millions of views worldwide and on YouTube. If you haven't seen it, you probably have seen it, but it's a good ad. I've got all the resources and I can link them in the link below. I can send them over to you by email if you want, but I think we can just watch this ad because it's a pretty good and creative angle, in my opinion.
Hello, ladies. Look at your man. Now back to me. Now back at your man. Now back to me. Sadly, he isn't me. But if he stopped using lady-scented body wash and switched to Old Spice, he could smell like he's me. Look down. Back up. Where are you? You're on a boat with the man your man could smell like. What's in your hand? Back at me. I have it. It's an oyster with 2 tickets to that thing you love. Look again. The tickets are now diamond. Anything is possible when your man smells like Old Spice and not a lady. I'm on a horse.
Fantastic opportunity there. And then we can also look at Dove, their Real Beauty campaign. Now, what it did is actually took on the beauty stereotypes, causing a ripple effect. Again, we're looking at some of the bigger brands with some of the bigger agencies, but just having that external perspective can really shift the way that you penetrate the marketplace, because you're not going to necessarily have the safest idea. You're going to come up with something like this, which is, captivating to your audience, is different. And what are the consequences? #1 selling body wash for men in the US. Now, similar thing with Dove and Real Beauty, and we've got Ogilvy. Just 1 month after its release, it garnered more than 140 million views, making it the most viral ad video at the time. The payoff was, of course, handsome, not only for the year, but setting the foundations for them to be a long-term player in the space. And this is the importance, It's not always about what happens on the front end, but taking these risks and innovating and coming up with these ideas and concepts can actually set the foundation for your brand far into the future. We've got Lego and We Are Pi. Let's Rebuild the World campaign was a pivotal for Lego's brand transformation. This is a creative innovation consultancy in Amsterdam. I love looking into these sort of things as I'm in the space. I like to keep a pulse on what's going on, and they did a fantastic job. Significant 5% growth in sales within that quarter alone, and it repositioned Lego not just as a child's toy, but a symbol of creativity and imagination for all ages. And this is when you start to sort of dissect different areas of, okay, we're not just a kid's toy, we symbolize creativity. Because they're an established brand that's been around for so long, their cohort customers will be older now. So they're gonna tap into not just the kids that are coming up, but the adults that can kind of think back, I used to play with Lego. And it builds an ethos around the brand that's not just based around it being a toy, but it being, a symbol of creativity and imagination. We've got Ford and GTB. They're based in Michigan. They were primarily a creative agency for Ford Motor Company. Not a lot of people know this about GTB, and they're now a subsidiary of WPP, obviously one of the big time players we're talking about. But it's funny, a lot of these smaller agencies eventually end up getting acquired by bigger ones because they understand what's going on with cultural relevance. And the easiest thing for these bigger players to do is just acquire them rather than building out these things themselves. A lot of the time it's just M&As, mergers and acquisitions, that happens in this case. Now, Built Ford Proud campaign was a tribute to both history and the future. So you got Sydney Sweeney in here, Built Ford Proud, and they reported an increase in brand loyalty with growth in sales for the subsequent quarter, and the campaign garnered millions of views and emphasized the brand's deep-rooted connection for consumers. A lot of the time, I wouldn't say it's easy, but I would say it's simple because they're just trying to optimize for customers' journey, and they're just trying to tell the story in the best way possible. But how they do this is they've got that external perspective. Okay, this is what your brand does. This is what we see from having a broader picture of the landscape. Let's try and meet somewhere in the middle. And a lot of the time, similar with the truth, it lies somewhere between the middle, of two opposing opinions. Again, another example, we've got Domino's Pizza. This is not necessarily an e-commerce company, but I like digging in deep. they had the Beyond the Pizza Box partnership that was sort of transformative. So their share price, they experienced a meteoric rise from $9 in 2008. So Domino's went from $9 in 2008 to over $388 now in 2023. And their rebranding, transparent marketing strategies, including showcased in real customer feedback. What is this again? Customer-centric, real customer feedback. As the customer, what do you think? And this boosted their brand loyalty and trust, of course. You know, I've mentioned on the channel before the importance of boosting trust and loyalty and the ways to do that. And by 2020, they held over 17% of the pizza delivery market in the United States. Now, this is what we talk about, not just being involved and participating, okay, coming up with something clever and creative. We're talking about tangible numbers. We're talking about that level of meteoric rise in their share price, but we're also talking about the market share, not just participating, but actually becoming an industry leader. Industry leader, having essentially, you know, a fifth of the pizza delivery market in the US. That's some big numbers. The right collaboration can lead to cultural resonance and significant business growth. And these two work hand in hand, because the more cultural relevance you have, the more awareness you have, and the more trust you can build within that engagement. Then the more trust you can build, you're going to lead to more conversions, because people are going to understand what your product is, and they're going to feel more comfortable in buying because there's going to be less resistance in that purchasing decision. What are the things that you should actually watch out for when you're choosing an agency? Now, these are things I've identified from things not panning out how we may have expected to, or where people's expectations are not met when they partner with other agencies and then they come to us. Because this is another thing that's huge. A lot of it's just educating people on the process, because a lot of people have been burnt. A lot of people are trying to offer online services and they might not be offering the best online services. So what are some of the things that you can look out for? Clear goals, they're crucial. Finding an agency that aligns with your culture and communication is essential. It's similar to when we've seen issues arise in-house. It's based around usually the communication or the alignment not being there with what the actual customer resonance is. These are the mistakes to sidestep when selecting an agency. The value should trump the price. What is the value that you're getting back? Rather than trying to cheap out if you're working with them and just get the best price and compete with price, that can be difficult sometimes, because, you know, essentially it's a race to the bottom, and it doesn't mean that you're actually getting the value. So, you know, if you're looking for someone that just has the best price, a lot of the time the quality and the value that you'll get back will reflect the price that you're trying to chase. Delve into the agency's track record and ensure that your investment is well placed. I do think people often skip the value. You know, maybe you're looking for a video editor, maybe you're looking for your social media management, paid advertising. Really understand the value you're getting and the depth that that person has, and the reference points that they have to draw from compared to the price. Because you're not just paying for somebody to edit a video or come up with a creative concept. You're paying for the years that they've had to spend cultivating the skill set in order to just give that to you, or come up with ideas on the fly quite quickly. You know, a lot of the times I have consultation calls and I'll be able to address the problem quickly, but that was based on years of having calls, years of problem solving, troubleshooting, and always sharpening my tool set. The next one that's really important to me is open communication. Some agencies may be different, but open communication is the bedrock to collaboration. I feel like it's important to understand where someone's trying to get to and bridge the gap. And the only way you can understand where someone's trying to get to is through clear communication. You know, whether things are going well, whether you're going through areas that are not working as well. I think that open communication is extremely important to a successful partnership. Let's keep it fair. You know, we've talked about the advantages, we've talked about in-house where it can go wrong, we've talked about agencies where it goes well. What can it look like when you get these fundamentals wrong? So these are agency partnerships that have gone wrong. They're not all success stories, and this is when even the pros don't get it right. Now, what was the attempt? Gap, in collaboration with Laird and Partners, tried to modernize identity in 2010 by unveiling a new logo. Now, the outcome, the design was swiftly criticized as generic and lacking distinction. They literally returned their logo to its iconic logo within a week, acknowledging the redesign mistake. Let me actually just show you the dates. I had to pull this up to actually show you how crazy it was. So from 1990, they had this going solid, going strong. October 6th, whatever reason, in 2010, they thought, let's change it. Literally within 6 days, less than a week, it was changed back. And this was the process here. So generic, lacking distinction, you know, that's just coming from not having an understanding of the relevance that they spent all these years building up. That's 20 years accumulating brand resonance within the marketplace and familiarity. And to change that with something lackluster or something that lacks distinction from what they're used to, you got to change it back within 6 days. What's another example? Tropicana and Arnold Group. What was the attempt? In 2009, Tropicana sought to rejuvenate its brand image by introducing an entirely new packaging design developed by Arnold Group. Now, this is Peter Arnold on the left. As you can see here, he sort of owns a design consultancy. And here's the before and after. Before, recognizable. After, trying to be too clever, man. Sometimes you've got to stick with what works. What was the outcome? So sales plummeted by 20%, amounting to a staggering 33 million loss over a 2-month period. The new design led to confusion, with many customers unable to recognize the brand on the shelves. What is that? It ties into the communication, the keys to success with some agency partnerships. How well can you communicate, but how well can someone understand? I think that's one of the keynotes to effective communication, is actually being able to transfer the understanding to somebody else, not just being able to say fancy things and show projections and try and make it too clever. Like, they literally tried to turn this into a glass here. They've got the brand name Sideways. I'm not a design expert, but we can see that this is unfamiliar. We don't even know what this is. This almost looks like the value brand version, like the cheaper version that you'd get. So what was the aftermath? Tropicana quickly reverted to its previous design, admitting the misstep and underestimation of its customers' attachment to the original packaging. Making the call, choosing wisely, times to rethink an agency. We're not just going to say agency. This video is, about understanding when to work with an agency. Perhaps you are working with an agency, perhaps it's going well, perhaps it's not going well, perhaps you're considering the option, perhaps you have an in-house team, but you're looking for that specialist expertise within a particular area. Perhaps you have a freelancer, perhaps you have an intern. There's tons of different dynamics, so it's not a one-size-fits-all case, but there are a few things to look out for. Perhaps budget constraints. Startups might initially prioritize in-house due to budget constraints. Niche expertise. Specialist in-house teams might be best to handle some sectors and intricacies. This is not always the case. It's less likely that the in-house team is going to have some of the expertise, or maybe I've seen some of the case studies that we've seen in particular spaces, but perhaps it's a law firm and it could be, something based around law accounting. Your in-house team will have greater expertise than an accountant, that's a generalist accountant. There is certain grey areas. It can't always be black and white because every business is different and every business's requirements are completely different. So short-term projects. The cost and time of onboarding might overshadow the benefits of the projects. So you might want to get something done quick and snappy. You have someone there that has a decent understanding of it. Maybe the quality doesn't have to come out A1 because it's not going to lead to 33 million lost in 2 months. And then the control aspects. This is a huge thing, When people want to bring it in-house, a lot of the time it comes to control, and they'll prefer direct control over every nuance. So this just gives you an understanding of what to consider when keeping it in-house or bringing in an agency. So these are just things to consider. Now, strategic timing. Partnering with an agency at the right moment. What are the 4 variables that we've identified when we've seen success amongst our clients? Venturing into uncharted markets. So we support clients breaking into unfamiliar territories, leveraging our expertise, and we simplify these new markets, setting the stage for their brand's success. Then we've got revitalizing the brand narrative. When brands seek a refresh from repetitive stories, we've collaborated to innovate and change their market image. Then we've got launching innovations. A product launch is as much about the story as it is the features. We've teamed up with brands to ensure that their products don't just launch, but leave a lasting mark on the marketplace. Now, this is important. Again, it kind of comes down to that echo chamber and that cycle, and sometimes that unawareness for different perspectives. If you want to really be disruptive, this is where partnering with an agency can work, because they're not going to tell you what necessarily you want to hear, but perhaps they're going to tell you what you need to hear. And then the last point is, if you're on the brink of expansion, as clients approach major growth phases, they face new challenges. This is normal. Perhaps they face a new challenge, they can't adapt quick enough. We've been able to consistently sort of be there to help them and guide them through these challenging phases, reinforcing their brand expansion. Even if it is a case where they eventually want to bring it in-house, sometimes there is just that lapse in timing. So these are some of the things that we've seen where the strategic timing of working with an agency is the right moment and the right move. Now, I just wanted to touch on this because if you've enjoyed this thus far and you made it thus far, you must resonate with some of the things I'm saying, or perhaps you find it interesting or insightful. So I'm just going to give you our framework, and whether you work with us or not, whether you find another partner or if you're an agency yourself, it's always good to see different principles and values and the reasoning behind them, most importantly. For us, these are some of the things that are important. Obviously, you've got some core values up here, but one of the most important things is the cultural synergy. True collaboration thrives on shared values. It's not just about marketing, it's about a shared mission and mutual vision. When brands and agencies align culturally, the results are more than impressive, they're transformative. This is actually a quote from myself and is on the website. From day one when I started out working with people, I knew that there needed to be some sort of cultural synergy. It's not just about taking on a project for the sake of it. Do I understand you? Do I understand what you're trying to do? Do you understand what I'm trying to do? It's extremely important. Then, one of the important things for us, or for myself, is the feedback mechanisms. In the digital realm, feedback isn't just feedback, it's data. Now, this is similar to people saying, a loss is just a lesson. I see data as gold. We employ a data-centric approach, continuously refining strategies, ensuring your brand remains not just relevant, but revolutionary. You've got the cultural synergy. Do you understand if we're culturally aligned? Are we trying to really transform something, or are you just trying to get a job done and you want the cheapest price? Because then there's not going to be a fit. Then we need to look at the data sets. Okay, how can we use these data sets into a feedback mechanism and use a data-centric approach? So it's culture. Culture, one side is being creative, and some people can see it as a bit airy-fairy. But then at the same time, no, we come straight back in with the data-driven approach. So then there's the horizon of marketing. Tomorrow's marketing isn't just about trends, it's about revolutions. As the digital marketing horizon evolves, Sireno remains committed to keeping pace and setting rhythms. And what that comes down to is just, understanding where you're trying to get to, but also having a pulse on what's going on constantly. As you've seen from this, I like looking at success, I like looking at the cases that work and implementing into what can work for you. Success leaves clues. I always say, I'm dropping the gems, are you picking them up? So let's recap and reflect. One thing we do know is the digital realm is ever evolving. Now, in this case, I am a digital based agency, so I can only speak from that perspective, but this can work with creative spaces, videographers. The realm that we're doing business in, if you're a business owner or an agency owner, is ever evolving. And agencies are inevitably built for adaptability, because if they're not solving problems, they're not providing value to the marketplace. If they're not providing value to the marketplace, they're essentially pointless. So that is one thing that can kind of keep you ahead, the fact that they're built on the foundations of trying to strive for adaptability. With rich resources, unmatched expertise, they can often be treasure chests of the marketing world. More than just a service, is a partnership powered by shared goals of growth. Now, these sound kind of like corny sometimes, and these might be things that you see on websites, but you're hearing a voice behind it. I'm actually breaking down why these things actually make sense. Shared goals, culturally aligned, and essentially what does this lead to? It leads to growth, profitability, the things that you're really interested in. This is at least my thoughts, okay? But if you've enjoyed, leave a comment sharing an insight that perhaps you've taken away or something that we didn't include. If you disagree, share your thoughts too. I want to continue the conversation, and if any of this resonated with you and you're an established company looking to grow and believe there could be room for us to partner, pencil in a time with myself or my team. This is what it's all about, having the conversation. These are usually things that I reserve exclusively for clients, but I'm giving it away, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks again.